Hello, tabletop fans. This is Rod. Welcome to the first video I'm doing as Rod's Tabletop Hoops. Red Van Rod on YouTube still works just fine, but I've kind of changed the title to something that will identify me as a broadcaster of ancient hoops, tabletop games, basketball games, modern games. Not as many present games, but I may end up doing that as well if I really get the urge to play some games that are amazingly fantastic. I do play Hoops Tabletop Pro Basketball by Mark Vasilio pretty consistently when I'm not surprised by games like PTG basketball. So I definitely play games that are still being published, but I'm here to feature a couple games today. Bigger than that, I'm here to feature some games that are in boxes. I have a few tabletop basketball games that are in boxes, and I'm going to start at the beginning of time here, as you can see, with a game called Negamco's Pro Basketball. This game started out in the 1960s, and we're just going to do a review of some of my boxed games, and we'll do each one at a time. I'm not necessarily going to play any of the games, but we will review game cards, game parts, rules, quirks, my limited experience with some of these games, and full-time experience with some of the other games. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope it's slightly entertaining. It'll probably be put together in a two-part series with a couple games, in 2 or 3 games in one video, 2 or 3 games or more in another video. Games that are boxed tabletop basketball games. That is what we're aiming at. And certainly we found one right here with Negamco's Pro Basketball. Now, Negamco's Pro Basketball, I believe, began in the 1950s. I have to look at the literature here. I got this game from Big League Company and Keith last year, and I really have not looked at all of the teams available, but I instantly see here that the 55-56 NBA season was available even as of last year, so that is quite impressive. You could still contact Keith and probably get the original cards. These are not reprints or anything. He's got college stuff here. You can look at this list. I mean, it's just amazing what he has listed here. So the one season I purchased from him last year, I just wanted to test it out and see what the game was like. I think it was priced around $20, and I went out and I bought the game, had it shipped to me in the midst of buying a lot of PTG basketball stuff, which he also features, and out of Hinckley, Minnesota. And I came across the 61-62 ABL season, and I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. It's actually the 60-61 season, 62 edition, and I was very pleased that I was able to purchase that. Anyway, but it also came with the game box. As you can see all this stuff out here. I'm going to take a little closer look to the box itself. It's a sturdy cardboard box, and as you can see, there's not just a game box, there's also a built-in spinner in the box, and we'll take a quick look at that as well. One second. This box is quite impressive. I know I've read this before, but it says play Negamco's Pro Basketball, America's only realistic basketball game. Now, they could probably make that claim back in the 1950s because there probably were not many other competing games at all with Negamco's Pro Basketball. Players individually represented and rated. You choose lineups, substitutes as coach, realistic performances in shooting, rebounding, and penalties based on official league stats, all pro teams and players included, defensive strategy necessary. So I played my one game of this. I didn't notice a lot of defensive strategy whatsoever, except the fact some players foul each other more than others. Every player different, rated by computer. Now, I would love to see that 1955-56 computer as well. New player card ratings available each year for both pro and college players. Now, I'm not trying to make fun of this game because it was clearly ahead of its time, and I'm sure there was plenty of 10, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, maybe even younger, that loved playing Negamco's pro basketball because it's like you're putting the professional players, or in this case even college players, on your tabletop. So that's what this group, this channel on YouTube is all about. Rod's Tabletop Hoops. I'm still getting used to saying that. I've changed the name. Hopefully that name will resonate with people. Also, Red Fan Rod works. If you're on YouTube and you're looking for my channel, you can't remember Rod's Tabletop Hoops, just go Red Fan Rod and it'll come up as well. So anyway, hopefully if you're subscribed, you won't have to worry about that. But anyway, quite a colorful box with the clip art. The guy, number 17, the Caucasian guy going up for the left-handed hook over another Caucasian guy. There was really not a lot of emphasis on African-American people back in the day, but I'm not going to get into that too much. That's just kind of my little funny. And it also says it's new and exciting. So, that just adds to the attraction of a game like this, which I think in 1970, the game box and parts were $17. If you look in the upper left here, one edition is $9.99, or for like a season of cards, or $24.95 for a complete game with your choice of one NBA or ABA edition. Anyway, as you can see, there are a number of seasons available. The cards themselves are not that complex. I'm just pulling up the Cleveland Pipers, for instance. See this team right down here? I made an envelope for them, and that's apparently what your Pipers are supposed to look like, with a basketball with bagpipe type instruments attached to it. So anyway, the Pipers had a lot of players that I recognize from the NBA and the American Basketball Association. Some of these guys, this is the ABL of 62, and this was, of course, a time when there was a serious point shaving scandal that was found out in the college ranks. And a lot of players like Doug Moe, Tony Jackson, just players of that nature. Connie Hawkins was the biggest name, and here is the Hawk of the Pittsburgh Wrens, short for Renaissance. He was also at Iowa for a cup of coffee, and then they said he took money from Hank Molinas, known gambler. And Connie's like going, I don't know what the heck I was talking about. I don't know what I said. He eventually, 8-9 years later, was able to win his lawsuit and join the NBA. But that robbed him of 6, 7, 8 years of NBA basketball prominence, and a lot of money probably as well, which a lot of money back then. If he was in the Baylor, Elgin Baylor, Russell, Chamberlain, West, Robertson type of category, he could have easily made $75,000 to $100,000 per year in those 1960s, because everyone says that this guy was, as good as anyone who ever played as far as offensively. I don't know how he would do necessarily defensively, but certainly he had his, like Dr. J, this guy had moves, he had huge hands, and he just had a penchant for passing, scoring, rebounding. He was just that type of a player. His Pittsburgh Wrens were 41-40 and 61-62. But this is quite an amazing group of players. I can't remember if I've got the 60-61 season or 61-62. I just realized my envelopes say 61-62. Maybe that's what I have. I can't remember. But anyway, moving on. Cleveland was led by Dick Barnett. each player has a field goal rating. The ABL was the first league with the 3-point shot. You can see his field goals on this card are 1 to 53. The 3-point field goal attempts are 1 to 13. And the free throws are 1 to 80. I'm not sure if that's 53%, 13%, and 80%. But he also has an assist rating. You can roll to see if he got an assist. Or you can score. I can't remember. I think you can actually get 2 points for somebody with the assist rating or something of that nature. And a personal foul rating as well. But Dick Barnett, one of those early players that did not get a shot at the NBA right away, got his feet wet with the Cleveland. Where are they? Cleveland Pipers. Yes, the Cleveland Pipers. The league had 4 Eastern Conference teams, Eastern Division teams. The Pipers were first place in the Eastern Division, followed by the Pittsburgh Wrens. Second place, 41-40. Third place, Chicago Majors, which I put down here. Chicago had a couple interesting players. Tony Jackson. He was another guy involved in the point shaving scandals, allegedly. Probably not. They were just looking for a scapegoat, and some of these players totally got hosed. There's one player, I think, in this league that played in this league named Bill Spivey, and he actually was a gambler, and so he was a guy who probably deserved to be banned, but in many cases, very far and few between. We also have a Chicago player here, Chicago Majors star in Nat Sweetwater Clifton. Nat Clifton was a fabulous player. One of the first African-American players in the National Basketball Association. Played with the New York Knicks. And he had retired, had a few injuries, and came back with the Chicago Majors. I believe the Majors were owned by Abe Saperstein, the Harlem Globetrotter owner. And so Abe had tried to get, I just read in a book that had tried to get Nat Clifton to play some Major League Baseball. He actually got him to get a tryout. He probably could have had a Major League career. He was that good of an athlete. Another guy with just a spectacular athletic build, and could have played any sport probably. But like I said, there's Connie Durking, Larry Siegfried, Ben Warley. He actually played in the NBA a little bit before going to the ABA. Siegfried and Durking were NBA, probably 7 to 10 year players in the NBA, very solid contributors. So anyway, there's a lot of history with this 2-year ABL, American Basketball League. That's why I picked it. And let's take a quick look at some of the other things in this packet. I'm checking behind the, it looks like we got looks like it's a score sheet where you just keep track of the team's field goals made and attempted. Isn't that an odd thing? So, yeah, maybe you didn't keep individual stats if you didn't want to, because there's another score sheet over there that has actual individual players. This thing's crazy. Standings and league leaders, you can keep track of that. You can keep track of points scored, field goal percentage. Look at that. I mean, how interesting is that? You just usually don't get, standings. What do? You put little hash marks in the win and loss column for your teams. Got another score sheet here where you can just have an individual game. They only give you one of them. You just copy it off and away you go and keep score of the game. Very interesting set of score sheets here. Oh, I guess I got another one up here. So I got a few more score sheets. Yeah, got a couple double-sided things that I could copy off if I wanted to. While I'm on this topic, you got a set of game instructions here. And the way the game was originally set up is you are trying to, the way the ball moves, it was just like rotational from guard, center, forward, and it was just a very interesting way of, this is a copyright 1959 instructions from Namad Namaji Game Company, which is built into the Negamco name, obviously. So I'm just kind of fascinated by that, of Duluth, Minnesota. So you got the game in the 50s was in Duluth, Minnesota, and eventually I believe got bought out by Keith and his brothers and at Big League Company. And its last stop appears to be Hinckley, Minnesota. So there may be some Negamco sets at Big League Company still available. I would have to contact Kevin Hennessy, but I would not doubt that there's probably at least some game cards. I don't know if there's complete games, but anyway, here's an assist and rules violation injury chart they added later on, obviously, to this game. Let's take a quick look at that spinner, which a lot of people aren't as pleased with, only because it's hard to really see where that spinner stops on. You take a look at that and it looks like 86 or 23. I really can't tell for certain where that landed, but the spinner works great. I'd call a definitive 82, which would probably be a missed shot on somebody's card, but very easy to spin. But a lot of people ditch the spinner because of its kind of inaccuracy. But anyway, it's built right into the back of the game board. Just a fascinating one. And that same piece of clip art. Two guys going up, left-handed hook. That's a major league move there. I was thinking about two-handed set shots and underhanded free throws, and that guy's in the air skying. So that's probably one of the better shots you can take. When I played my only game with this last year, I decided to take the advice of some other people and use, I think I can't remember if I used 3 dice. Maybe I used the Patriot, red, white, and blue dice for numbers for free throws and for field goals. I can't remember exactly for sure. But also there was a rebounding chart that was sent to me. And this was just from another board game, but you roll for the rebounds. You could also roll for assists, and I believe roll for possession as well. I think that was the assist chart could work as a possession chart if you really wanted to use it. And I think I ended up using it for rebounds only in my own version of possession. So it took a lot of work to get this game on the road. Once I got a little bit of a flow to it, and I can't remember even how I kept time. Maybe it was a number of shots. I think it was a number of points. I think they wanted you to get a number of points by the end of a certain quarter, which was awful interesting as well. Also, I had some more reference material. I purchased this copy of the 61-62 American Basketball League from Matt Rockwood. He was a collector of many press guides and other manuals, and this thing is just chock full of history and information. I was just reading up on Nat Sweetwater Clifton. Nat Sweetwater Clifton, center, 6'8", weighs 240 pounds, native of Chicago, one of Chicago's all-time great prep stars while starring at DuSable High School before entering Xavier University in New Orleans. Abe Saperstein, owner of the Chicago Majors, and one of the foremost judges of basketball talent in the nation, rates Clifton as the greatest and most colorful ball handler in pro ball. He handles a basketball like most athletes would handle a baseball, says Abe. Clifton played 3 seasons with the Harlem Globetrotters, Saperstein's famous traveling team, and then Abe sold him to the New York Knickerbockers for a sizable amount of money. Sweetwater played 7 seasons with the New Yorkers and 1 with the Pistons, and then retired because of an injury. 8 years with the NBA, Clifton amounted 4,409 rebounds and 444 points. So, I mean, it's amazing that, and then he signed with Bill Veeck. Bill Veeck's, opted to sign anyone who, even though he hadn't played much baseball, Bill Veeck of the Indians said, hey, we'll sign you to baseball. But it's just amazing. This little reference material kind of saved my bacon. It talks about championship playoffs. It talks about all kinds of things. I can't remember if I got if this is the right playoffs second. Okay. It looks as if the final championship game was here, and I'll just read a quick excerpt. April 9th, with a surprisingly small crowd of 3,000 people at Kansas City, the amazing Cleveland Pipers. Cleveland Pipers with Connie Durking, Larry Siegfried, Dick Barnett, shocked the Steers 106-102 and captured the best-of-5 series 3-2 after trailing in games 2-0. Although the Steers' Bill Bridges took game honors with 31 points, Piper's team cohesiveness proved decisive as first Dick Barnett, then Connie Durking, and then Johnny Cox would hit a key basket as the Pipers stayed close all the way before clinching it in the last minute. Barnett with 26 and Durking with 20 were the big point men, and Cox hit 3 key three-pointers. Larry Staverman supported the Steers' cause with 26 points. So that's kind of how I believe the 61-62 season came to a close. And this game, I wish it played a little bit smoother. I will probably try to play another game of this. I don't know exactly when because I've got a lot of games that I love playing. And I'd be playing this. I bought this game for this season alone. And that's the only reason I'd probably go back to it. But this has been a review of Negamco. Negamco's Pro Basketball, new and exciting. Let's head on to the next boxed basketball game on my agenda. On to the next game. This one I previewed in my last video, of course, my Rookie of the Year game, PTG, or Pro Table Games Basketball, established in 1965. This game lasted from about 1965 through roughly 1979. Kind of got the table set up here for a game between the Denver Nuggets and the New York Nets in the ABA of 1976. The cards in these later seasons, they restored some of the bold fonts, larger fonts, easier to read cards. There was a stretch in the early 1970s when PTG got sold out to another company, and they kind of cheapened the fonts, and they made the fonts small for a few 2 to 3 years, 70, 71, 72, before they started to increase the font size once again. And these are back in the big size. They kind of blank backs. They're not a super high quality. I use my corner rounding tool and rounded all the corners to once again give them kind of that APA baseball feel. But anyway, this 76 season is most likely still available from Keith at Big League Company. The Nuggets, they were the class of the final season of the ABA, 1975-76. They won 60 games. Matter of fact, their team hosted the All-Star game as the Nuggets, and then they put the rest of the teams. The league's division went down to about 7 teams by the end of the final season of the ABA, before 4 teams were taken in the merger with the NBA. But the 7 teams, of course, which they threw into one division, were the Nuggets at 60 wins, the Nets at 55 wins, and the eventual champions, led by Dr. J, who was just fantastic. There he is, 39 minutes a game, 4A on defense, the highest rated defensive player, and he just does everything well. Against the Nuggets, who had David Thompson, a fantastic rookie to go with veteran, Dan Issel, a young Bobby Jones, and Ralph Simpson, an underrated player nobody knows about these days because he played primarily in the ABA. So the San Antonio Spurs were in second place. They had the George Gervin, James Silas, Larry Keenan, Billy Pultz connection. Colonels, the defending champs, were very solid, but the owner of the Colonels, John Y. Brown, KFC owner, noted that they lost about $500,000 and they had to sell off Dan Issel. Issel eventually he was supposed to go to the Baltimore Claws of, a new expansion team, but they went into training camp and had no money, so they quickly folded, and he was shuttled on to the Denver Nuggets. And I believe this is Denver Nuggets. They were Denver Rockets for many years before finally not wanting to have that Rockets label. Let's go with Nuggets, which makes a whole lot of sense. My homemade envelopes reflect the gold mining guy, which is one of the best logos of all time for the Denver Nuggets. They should bring that back. Fifth place was Indiana. George McGinnis had left. They'd lost a lot of their talent in turn. They did have Billy Knight. Spirits of St. Louis had done an incredible job in '75 by upsetting the defending champion Nets in the playoffs. But this year, Marvin Barnes went off the rails. Maurice Lucas, in his second year, said, "I've had enough playing with Marvin Bad News Barnes. He was too much of a free spirit, so to speak," and he went on to Kentucky with Artis Gilmore in Kentucky. The final team, which barely made it through the season, they just struggled, as in loose balls, was the Virginia Squires. They had so many injuries. They had about 5 coaches. It just went downhill. They won 15 games, lost 68. So they didn't even get their 84th game in. But quite a season. And this is just, I'm using this as a demonstration. The PTG basketball, they've got seasons. I can't remember exactly. I think they start at 65, 66. Let me see if I can find my sheet here. First off, here's the breathtaking box. It's just a very clean line box, nothing too crazy, but it certainly is a selling point. I can't believe I got this for the first time last year in January, thanks to Kevin Hennessy, who lives in Minnesota and visits Keith periodically to help him organize his stock in a warehouse it's not it's a storefront, but it's really losing some of its integrity, so he's making sure those cards are protected. As it says right here, we got a sheet of PTG basketball seasons, and this list basically shows, if you look at the top of the list, you got ABA. They have 72. It's 72 editions, so it's 71 seasons through 77 editions, which is the 76th season. And he has them at $14.95 a piece. I believe he may still sell those extra seasons for that price to you. The question is, can you get in touch with Keith? The answer is yes. You may have to have some patience. So it's either through eBay. Sometimes he's kind of taken his pro game PTG off eBay for now. I don't know exactly why, but you can call him, you can email him. Calling is probably better. He's an 85-year-old guy who responds to phone messages better than emails. But they have ABA Fringe, NBA Fringe players, little extra players, so you're beyond the 10th, 11th, and 12th men they're handing out. They've also have the NBA edition sets that went from the 66 season through the 79 season. In addition, they have, as I've mentioned before, college seasons, and there's like 20 teams from the 69-70 season, the 70-71 season, 30 teams from the 72 season. You can go to the back. I don't know even if you can read that very well, but there's additional seasons. There's a 30-team set, 74, that's the one I've got. 74, which is awesome. That was Bill Walton's last season at UCLA. Not that I'm a UCLA guy. I went to Oregon State. Still Pac-10, Pac-8, and I think it's Pac-8 back then. And then it goes on to the 75 season, 40 teams, 76 season, another 40 teams, and 77 season, 20 teams. So, that's pretty much it. These are some chicken scratch. I put that in the description of my last video if you want to get in touch with them via mail, email, or phone. I'd almost suggest phone at this point. But anyway, this game came with that. For the 77 edition, which includes this ABA. There's this very interesting rules change. I had this sheet blown up a little bit. It's basically, I'm not going to read the whole thing through, but it basically says they changed their formula to give the proper amount of points scored, but I think they're sacrificing the field goal percentage based on the number of plays. It's really a convoluted way. So you might find that a couple of these later seasons, maybe 77 edition, 78 edition, 79 edition, 80 edition of ABA or NBA, may be a little bit off as far as field goal attempts go, because they want you, as this says, you typically, historically, PTG, you want to move the clock. I kind of, instead of 50 moves per quarter, I just put a clock together that has 50 moves for the, is it 50 moves for the quarter? Either way, the proper number of moves per quarter, and I move the clock with a little game piece every time a field goal attempt is taken. And by the time I get done with this, a quarter is done. I like to have timing versus just check marks or hash marks for time. This is my modified one, a 20-minute per half version for the NCAA cards. So if you do end up getting the college game, I have that available on my tabletop basketball board games group on Facebook. So there is a link within the YouTube page now that you can link up and go to that page if you're not already a member of Tabletop Basketball Board Games. There's a lot of good discussion, gameplays, game shares, all kinds of fun things going on with any type of tabletop basketball game on Tabletop Basketball Board Games. I am the administrator for that. But anyway, you also, in addition to these changes here, it comes with this little packet of dice and one little ball marker, kind of show who has the ball. I've got what do I have? Where's my, I have a little orange marker. It's actually an orange kid's eraser, and that's how I determine that's shaped in a basketball shape. Use that to determine who has the ball at a particular time. And basically similar to what I said in the prior video. There's your dice. You got 4 dice. You roll them all at once. I'll demonstrate that with a dice. There's my clock right there. But anyway, say I want to do one play and say the Nuggets have the ball. There's a jump ball chart that comes with you. You can do whatever you would like for a jump ball chart. It's based on height, and whoever's taller in height gets the advantage typically if you use a jump ball chart. They have also got a jump ball chart on the back of that 4-play chart over there. Missed free throw chart, tip off and jump ball chart. All kinds of original charts. They also have modified charts. You can just do what you like. I actually use a chart from Computer Basketball, another game I'll be rehashing later on in this series. So, but anyway, say you want to play one play. Bobby Jones got the ball, which means he's the 4th rated shooter, S4. So that means I would have had to roll with the red dice. I would have had to roll a 6. I would have had to roll a 6 for Jones. Or no, sorry, that's for the assist. S4, 10, 11, 12. Which doesn't come up all that often. But anyway, let's just say I rolled with the red dice. Oh, heck, let's just do a play. Nuggets ball. This is the shot card, the possession card for Denver. You roll all the dice, and I rolled an 11. I don't know if you can see that there. Rolled an 11. So you look at the shot card for Denver. And on 11, it does say S4, which is Bobby Jones in this lineup. He's an S7. David Thompson an S1, Issel an S2, Ralph Simpson S4, Chucky's an S9. So out of these top 5, Bobby Jones gets the 4th most shots in the lineup. So Bobby's got the ball, and I have these 2 numbers are for the card, and it's a 2-digit number. A 5 is the first digit, and a 5 is the second digit. So what I have is a 55 here. On 55 on Bobby Jones' card is a 1. And Bobby Jones hit about 60% from the floor almost every year in the ABA. A 1 on the floor play chart, no matter who the defender is, because you look at what grade the defender is while you're doing that. It could be a 1, 2, 3, or 4 defender. But he just got a 1, which is good, 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 good. Nobody could have stopped Bobby from making that shot. Now that I made that shot, you go back to that 11 you rolled for possession, and you see if an assist is awarded. Well, this one says Beck under 11, if you can read that, which means if Byron Beck had been in the game, he would have received assist on the play. But he is not. So either way, a shot is taken, you move the clock, no assist, you roll the dice, New York Nets have the ball, and you just play until that clock runs out each quarter. So really simple format, really simple run of game. It sometimes, just like any game, it can be a little monotonous. Sometimes you have trouble making shots. I played a game with this and the 77 edition, and the cards are a little bit different. I think they went through a couple metamorphoses during their run at PTG. You're not always going to get the same type of card for seasons that are in the later run of the cards, the late 70s versus the early 70s. We find that most experts find in this game that the original 66, 67 seasons play and flow the best, and 69, 70, 71, you're in pretty good shape there as well, but you're prone to some interesting modifications to the PTG formula over time. So it's got its quirks. But at the same time, the fact that this thing was produced in the 1960s and has game flow kind of like this, kind of like APA baseball, that's always been my favorite thing about it. Let's see, what else do you get with in the box? You get this weird ass, sorry for the language, but it's weird. Looks like a basketball score sheet, like a solitaire score sheet here. If you want to play on your own, you just get a whole bunch of that. You can copy that off. Similar to what the Negamco game did. Now, rules-wise, Kevin told me this on the first day that he sent this game to me. He says, well, how to play PTG basketball, there's a quarter page of rules, probably about a fifth of a page, actually. It's right at the bottom here. And it's basically just instructions for play. Select your 5 players, designate which one each player on your team who will guard on defense. There's playmaking dice, talks about combining the dice. It just is simple as that. There's literally that much to the rules. Have you ever seen a game with that few rules? Now, there's a couple variations. The ABA has a 3-point shot, which is kind of cool, but it's kind of rudimentary. Right here, special ABA rule. If points, a lot of ABA players have a 3-point rating, so if you get numbers 47 through 50 on any player's card, it could result in a field goal 3-pointer made or not, depending on how good a defender you have out there. Although you'd think most players, it wouldn't be as big a deal because, you're way out there at 25-foot land. Many of those back in the day, that's a free shot. I'm trying to see. Brian Taylor may have one of those numbers. There's a 48 right there. So 48. Chucky Williams is a defender 2. He's a 2B on his card. I don't know if you can see that, but a 48 with a defender 2 is good. Good 3-pointer. So the 3-ball worked back in 1976. It wasn't being used as much back then. But anyway, this game is very simple. There's not anything in particular that I can fully criticize, like I said, except the formula kind of varied over time. The college game is seamless. You can play NCAA teams, and that is kind of neat to do because I didn't really follow college basketball back in the early 70s like I did the pros when I was a youngster. So it's kind of neat to have Bill Walton on UCLA or Bob Gross on University of where is he? San Diego State. A lot of my 77 Trailblazers are what I'm trying to refer to. Johnny Davis, a couple other players that are in the 1973-74 season of of NCAA for PTG. But anyway, that is a review, a quick overlook of PTG and another boxed game. And I'm going to put forth another video most likely to review another of my limited amount of box games. But for now, I hope you've decided to subscribe to this channel. I hope I'm providing some informational things that are kind of fun. And I wish you happy gaming. Once again, we're still early in 2023. I wish you a happy new year. And we will talk to you soon with another video regarding classic tabletop basketball games.